A side deck is a mechanic used in card games that is defined as a deck of cards which players can swap out with their main deck in between games of a match. While side decks are used in many card games, the Pokemon TCG does not utilise this feature. I thought it would be interesting to explore whether a side deck could work in Pokemon. Before we can discuss whether a side deck would work or not, first we need to establish the rules. The most notable card game which uses a side deck is Yu-Gi-Oh! The rules are as followed. A side deck is made up of up to 15 cards. After game 1, a player can switch any number of cards from their main deck with their side deck, as long as their main deck has the same amount of cards as it did before. For the purpose of this experiment, I'm going to use these rules. First of all, let's look at some of the positives a side deck would do for the game. Certain decks feel like they don't stand a chance in certain matchups unless they include tech cards into their list. Jolteon, for example, faces pretty much an auto loss versus Rapid Strike Urshifu due to weakness. Some players have been opting to run a Dusknoir, Dream Ball and Peonia package to help versus this matchup. However, this heavily affects the consistency of the deck. If a side deck existed in the game, Jolteon players could implement this package into their side deck and only use it when facing against Urshifu. Auto losses can often be a frustrating part of the game, and this would actually give decks a fighting chance versus their auto loss. On the other hand, throughout the game's history, there have been many polarizing tech cards. What this means is playing this card in your deck was often the difference between auto winning a matchup and auto losing it. Take AG/V. This was sometimes played in ADPization for the Decidueye matchup. If played, the ADP player was able to go through Decidueye's ability and take 2 prizes on each Pokemon whilst also resisting Decidueye's attacks, making the matchup very easy. But if it wasn't played, ADP had no answer to Decidueye as it only played Rulebox Pokemon, which Decidueye is immune to. Counter meta decks such as Decidueye have always existed in the game and have often been a healthy part of a metagame's ecosystem. If every deck had access to a tech card which would auto-win them these matchups, it would stop certain decks existing. Another point to make is throughout the history of the game, one of the fundamental decisions players have had to make was between maxing out consistency or choosing tech options when creating their deck. If a side deck were to exist, this wouldn't even be a factor. So as I was writing this video, it got me thinking. If I could create a side deck, what would it look like? Let's take Jolteon VMAX. Here's an extremely streamlined version of the deck with 0 tech cards. A side deck would look something like this. A Peonia, Dream Ball and Dusknoir package as mentioned before, for both the single and Rapid Strike matchup. A few Fana Waves and Path to the Peak for the Fusion Strike and Zacian Zamazenta matchup, and a few other generic tech cards for whatever situation you may need them in. To conclude, would a side deck work in Pokemon? Personally, I believe no, it wouldn't. The game has been developed for the past 25 years without a side deck in mind, and introducing one in the game's future would require serious adjustments to the game. Factors like weakness and immunities can make certain tech cards so polarizing for matchups. But anyway, thank you for watching. This has been my first video essay and it's definitely the sort of content I prefer making. So let me know what you think and I'll see you in the next one.